Uh, okay, stop everything you're doing right now. Because this one, I've been sitting with this energy for a while, turning it over, trying to find the right way in, and I think I finally have it. So get comfortable, take a breath, and let this reach you exactly where you are. There's a particular kind of waiting that isn't really waiting at all. It masquerades as patience wears patience's clothes, moves at patience's pace, but underneath it is something altogether different. It is the held breath of a person standing at the edge of something enormous, who has done everything that could be done, prepared everything that could be prepared, and now exists in that suspended, almost unbearable space between the last action taken and the first result received. That space has a specific texture, a specific weight, and if you've been living inside it for any length of time, you know exactly what I mean without needing me to describe it further. Something may be about to break open. Let me tell you about jackpots, the real ones, not the ones that arrive in a single blinding moment of luck, divorced from everything that preceded it, but the kind that have been assembling themselves quietly, in the background of a life, for longer than the person receiving them has been able to see. The kind that, when they finally arrive, look to the outside world like sudden fortune, like a lightning strike of good luck, landing on someone who happened to be standing in the right place, but that look from the inside, like the inevitable culmination of 1,000 invisible choices made in private, in difficulty, in the absence of any guarantee that any of it was going to amount to anything. Those are the jackpots worth talking about, the ones that were earned in the dark before the light arrived to make them visible. Picture a seed pressed into cold ground in a season that offers nothing in the way of encouragement. No warmth, no visible progress, no external confirmation that anything is happening beneath the surface. And yet, in the silence underground, in the dark where no one can see and no applause is possible, something is happening anyway. Something is reaching and breaking open and finding its way toward a light it cannot yet see but somehow knows is there. And then, not when it is ready, not when it is perfect, not when all conditions have aligned into something comfortable and certain, it surfaces. And the ground that looked empty reveals itself to have been, all along, extraordinarily full. You may be the seed that is about to surface. This reflection invites you to consider, what have you been growing in the dark? Without applause, without visible confirmation, without any guarantee of return that may be closer to breaking through the surface than you currently allow yourself to believe. Because here is what I notice about people who are genuinely on the threshold of something significant. They almost never feel like they're on the threshold. They feel like they're still in the middle, still waiting, still not quite there yet. The proximity to the moment they've been building toward is invisible to them, not because they lack perception, but because the inside of a threshold looks identical to the inside of an ongoing wait. You cannot feel the difference between almost and not yet, not from the inside, not in the moment itself. Only in retrospect does the threshold become legible. Some of you have been in a season that asked everything of you and offered very little in return. A season where the effort was real and the results were not yet visible. Where you showed up anyway, not because showing up felt rewarding, but because something in you understood at a level beneath conscious thought that stopping now would mean abandoning something that deserved to be seen through. And that choice, that quiet, unglamorous, uncelebrated decision to continue has been accumulating into something. Compound interest on an investment no one else could see you making. This reflection invites you to consider, if you were to look honestly at the invisible work you've been doing, the emotional labor, the persistent showing up, the private discipline of someone who chose growth over comfort when no one was watching, what would that inventory actually reveal about the person you've been quietly becoming? Because that person, the one assembled in the difficulty, shaped by the seasons, that asked more than they gave, is not the same person who started this journey. Something has been forged, not loudly, not in the dramatic furnace of a single defining moment, but in the slow and patient heat of accumulated experience, of chosen resilience, of continuing to move through a darkness that offered no guarantee of dawn and doing so anyway. And forged things have a particular quality to them, a density, a durability, a capacity to hold weight that unforged things simply cannot match. The jackpot, when it arrives in whatever form it takes, in whatever area of your life it chooses to land, will find someone capable of actually holding it. Someone who won't drop it out of unfamiliarity with receiving good things or collapse under its weight from lack of the internal structure to sustain it. It will find someone ready, not because readiness was announced, but because it was built. This reflection invites you to consider, in what areas of your life have you been unconsciously preparing yourself to receive something significant, building the internal capacity for it, even before you could fully articulate what it was you were preparing for. I want to pause here and offer something that I think needs to be said carefully. The moment you've been waiting for whatever shape it takes in your particular life, whether it arrives as financial shift or creative recognition or relational breakthrough, or simply the private and profound relief of a long effort finally bearing visible fruit, that moment does not belong only to the future version of you who receives it. It belongs equally, and perhaps more significantly, to the version of you who kept going when going felt impossible, who chose the seed over the applause, who pressed forward in the dark without the comfort of visible progress to sustain them. That version of you deserves to be acknowledged. Not just when the jackpot arrives, but right now, in this moment, before the ground has broken open and the thing growing beneath it has surfaced. The effort was real before the result was visible. And the person who made that effort is worthy of recognition that doesn't wait for outcomes to authorize it. Some of you watching this have been withholding permission from yourselves. Permission to feel hopeful without immediately armoring against the possibility of disappointment. Permission to believe that the thing you've been building toward is actually, genuinely, approaching not as a naive wish, but as a reasonable conclusion drawn from the evidence of everything you've already done and survived and grown through. And that withholding, however understandable, however protective in its intention, may be one of the last remaining obstacles between where you are and where you are going. Because hope, real hope, is not the same as naivety. It is not the reckless optimism of someone who has learned nothing from difficulty. It is the hard won, carefully calibrated conviction of a person who has been through enough to know that things can change, not because the universe owes them a pleasant outcome, but because they have done the work, paid the cost, stayed the course, and arrived at a place where something shifting in their favor is no longer a fantasy, but a genuine possibility backed by genuine effort. That is where you may be standing right now, at the edge of something earned. This reflection invites you to consider, what would it cost you emotionally to allow yourself to fully believe, not with desperation, not with grasping, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows what they've invested, that the moment you've been waiting for is not an illusion, but a legitimate destination on a path you have genuinely been walking? And here is the final thing I want to leave you with, beneath all the imagery and all the metaphor, at the level where things actually land and stay. The jackpot is not the point. The jackpot is the visible manifestation of a point that was made long before it arrives in every moment you chose to continue, in every version of yourself you were willing to outgrow, in every dark season you moved through without the comfort of knowing it had an end. The jackpot is simply the universe returning what was always already yours, in the only form the outside world has for acknowledging what the inside world has known for a very long time. The power is yours. It always has been. Not the power to force the moment into being. Abundance does not respond to desperation, only to alignment. But the power to remain open, present, and genuinely ready to receive what the work of your own life has been, quietly, persistently, and with remarkable patience, building toward the moment you've been waiting for. Jackpot, not eventually already in motion, already assembling itself from the raw material of everything you've already done, already closer to the surface than the silence of the ground above it suggests. Trust yourself with this. The waiting was never wasted. Every moment of it was the work, and the work, done honestly and without guarantee, always finds its way to the light. Before you go, I want to hear from you in the comments, because this community deserves to celebrate together. What is the one thing you've been working toward, quietly and without much external acknowledgement, that you are finally ready to admit out loud that you believe in? And what does your personal jackpot actually look like? Not the version you think sounds acceptable to say, but the real one, the one that lives at the center of your actual longing. Drop it below. I read every single one, and I mean it with everything I have. See you in the next one. And listen. The ground that looks empty has never once been empty. It has simply been growing something worth waiting for. Take care.